Midway, Jeff Dre here. There's been a lot of talk lately about the C4 zone and what it means to our city. So I made this quick video to talk about what it means and why you should care. So here's the plan. South of Memorial Hill, there's a 20-acre plot of fields right around Midway Auto. So currently this area is zoned C2 commercial and R111 residential. The plan is to rezone this 20 acres to the new C4 zone that allows for mixed commercial and residential usage. This rezone will allow a developer to create a European mountain village that has mixed commercial and residential spaces. They say this will be very much like the Riverwoods in Provo, but all Swissfied and smack dab in the front of Memorial Hill. Now this zone would meet a few drastic changes to the allowed land use. First, instead of the 292 units currently allowed, the C4 would allow a maximum of 480 residences. Maximum allowed height for the buildings would be, in the center of the rezone, would be 55 feet high of livable space. That's about 4 stories, with additional space for architectural elements in excess of 80 feet. The C4 zoning would also require a minimum of 1,017 parking spaces that would take up over 7 acres of space. And this could include a multi-level parking garage. In discussing the C4 zone, the city has given the following reasons for a rezone. I'll talk about each of these reasons in detail, but I won't address everything on the screen. Feel free to hit pause and read the details on your own. First, the city says we will be losing the resort tax that currently provides $425,000 to the city budget, and we need to make that up somehow. Second, we can get an arts center out of this project. And third, development is going to happen, and the C4 zone is a way to protect our city from undesirable development. So let's dig into each of those reasons. Now for the loss of tax, the short story is that our residential to resort use ratio has been exceeded, and we have too many residences in the city. As a result, we will lose the resort tax and $425,000 in associated tax revenue by 2020, and we need to replace it somehow. Now this can be replaced by reducing city services, increasing city taxes by 64%, dun dun dun, or by adding additional commercial development to bring in more sales tax revenues. So let's take a look at the tax increase. Nobody wants a 64% tax hike, 64% tax hike, but in reality we need to look at the tax information. I ran the numbers for a house that has a taxable value of $240K and found that a 64% increase of the Midway city tax only comes out to $14 extra per month. The Midway city tax is 8% of the overall tax and is one of the smaller values that we pay. There are other tax categories that could increase substantially as a result of the C4 zone, but I'll talk about that later. If the problem is the residential to resort ratio, why are we not looking to increase our resort capacity, our slow residential growth, to address that issue? Now, we say we can make up the $425K by increasing our commercial revenue. There's a lot of information here, but it comes down to us increasing the tax base in Midway by $42.5 million to make up the $425K tax shortfall. That means that businesses in the new C4 zone will have to have a taxable value of $42.5 million on day one to bring the city the required revenue, all without increasing the city budget for new services provided to this new development. This does not seem realistic, especially given the amount of commercial space that is currently vacant on Main Street. I counted 6 commercial spaces for rent today as I drove down Main Street. I was not the best economics student, but I did catch on to the concept of supply and demand, and we already have a large supply that doesn't seem to have a demand. The addition of an art center seems to be one of the driving factors for many supporting the C4 zone. In reality, the C4 zone does not guarantee that an art center will be a part of the overall project. The incentive in the zoning only asks a developer to donate 5 acres of land, nothing more. A developer could choose other performance incentives provided in the code and not elect to donate land for the art center. Additionally, City Council could elect to give the developer other incentives that do not include land for an art center. So at its very best, the C4 zone provides 5 acres of land to start the over $21 million proposed facility, and at worst, it adds 480 residences to our town without anything donated to the Arts Center. we should not be tying the Art Center project to this potential rezone and development. Now, the final reason for the C4 zone that the city gives is to protect against undesirable development. While the zoning does restrict some of the types of businesses that can happen in the 20 acres, it does not restrict overall building size and increases density and height substantially from what is currently allowed in any other city zone. While the C4 zone is a step in the right direction of specifying uses, it does not address the problem as a whole. As a city, we should wait for the new master plan where we can take a look at unifying all of the zones to a model that ensures new development is in harmony with the character of our small town. As suggested by the Planning Commission and others, we should have a moratorium on all development until this overall plan can be finalized. So parking is another issue, and there's a lot of math in the parking, but in short, the C4 zone would require a minimum of 1,017 spaces that will occupy over 7 acres. There's nothing in the zoning that prohibits this parking from being in a 4-story parking structure. Even with the 1,017 spaces, this only accounts for 1 parking spot per residence and does not account for parking required for the potential art center. Parking and traffic studies have not been performed and should be required before approving any rezone. In summary, there's a lot of things that we could do instead of the current C4 rezone. At a minimum, there should be a financial pro forma study on the impact of a development this size. My financial numbers may seem crazy and half-baked, but the truth is I have put in as much or more time analyzing the final impact to the city as has been done with the C4 proposal. For a project with this much potential impact, the city should have a thorough financial study to base its decisions on. The same study should be required for parking and traffic impact. The biggest concern for me came when I attended the Planning Commission and heard a planning commissioner comment that he was afraid we have not done enough in the zoning to make this desirable to a developer. It is my expectation that our planning commissioners, city councilors, and others are working with the best interests of Midway and its citizens in mind and not to line the pockets of developers. So what can you do to help? Number 1, sign the petition on change.org. I'll put a link in the comments. It's also here on the screen. Number 2, attend the City Council meetings on May 24th at 6 p.m. If you have a student graduating Wasatch High, you'll see that this meeting is in conflict with that, and that's bad timing on the city's part. Number 3, if you can attend, or even if you are attending, write an email, or better yet, print out a letter and hand deliver it to the city offices or your council member. And last but not least, tell your friends. Let them know how you feel and what is happening. So thanks for taking the time, and feel free to let me know if I'm wrong about anything in the comments. Thanks again.